What's up, guys? I was gonna intro it.
Good. I'm glad.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is the spoiler version of Freya. So we had a side story. It was the best side story of Danmachi by far, I would say.
Oh yeah.
And
I think I would even put it over some of the volumes in the mainline series. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say, but so we want to talk spoilers because we did a review of this already, but we want to talk about what's happened specifically that we enjoyed, some key moments. Mm-hmm. So Josh is the man with the laptop that you can't see, and he's got notes.
It's honestly because we when we made the spoiler discussion of Volume 14, that was a great video, and I think one of the reasons why is because we had some notes of factual, conclusive, information in front of us. And this one, when I was putting it together, I was like, oh my gosh, we're not going to get through all of this in one video just because there's so much of it. But I would like to talk about a few things because, we wanted to make sure when we did the review that we didn't spoil any of the big stuff because there is some oh my gosh information. So I think it was more so just wanting to go over that and just really interact with you guys on, showing our enjoyment, but also kind of talk a little bit of, speculating on what that means for some of the stuff. So I don't really even know where to start, to be honest with you. I guess we could just break it down by the chapters, right? So, we do have kind of the, what would you say, the, I guess, reveal sort of, or I guess the confirmation of what Freya is actually looking towards, and that being her odor, which if you watched our review, we did talk about that, but, we do get a little bit more of seeing kind of an example of what this kind of entails, with that being through the character Allie, which I don't even think we did a name drop of that, but Allie is the wannabe prince that is a girl, so she can't really be a true prince, but maybe her fairy godmother will come along one of these days.
She gets to be a king with kids.
Yeah, somehow. And that must have been hard for Freya, maybe. But seeing that kind of showcase almost mirroring or mimicking a Belle-like character. I don't want to say she's the spitting image of Belle and her character and exactly how he would react in that scenario. But I think just seeing the possibility of what Freya kind of has intended for Belle, and seeing how another character interacts, and kind of seeing how Freya in return reacts to that, it was pretty interesting. Did you have anything that you thought was kind of insightful in this first chapter as we see Freya through the desert? I think we get a lot more showcasing on just how Freya operates, and kind of more insight to not maybe necessarily what motivates her, but just how she sees certain aspects or certain people unfold in front of her.
Yeah, and I don't know the order specifics, so I may be jumping out a little bit, but okay. I believe in this chapter, or shortly thereafter, we do get scenes with Freya's Familia. I think they're in the dungeon fighting. And one thing that we didn't see, probably we haven't seen in the main series, is they actually do want to kill each other in some ways.
Yeah.
To become the strongest, so that they can in some ways prove that they're the partner for Freya. I don't know if they know that much yet, because I don't know how much information they have, but at least prove that they're most important to her.
Well, because I think honestly, that was probably one of the standouts in the entire volume, and maybe even as a dynamic for Familia in the series, because it's just such a different take than all the other Familias had. I mean, it's been mostly of some characters, they'll join to get stronger, or to get whatever they want out of life. Or there's been people that use familias as a way to connect with other people and actually build a family when they came from nothing. But with Freya's, it's so drastically different, and it's not even they're still wanting to do things to further what they want, but it's not even for themselves necessarily as it is just to please Freya, which I think is such a cool thing to have for a group of the strongest characters.
Let's just say Freya Familia, they're not hanging out after hours. They're going to work.
Well, they are, but they're trying to.
Yeah, they're fighting after hours. But and we get a lot more of that in the Otter section, so I don't want to jump too far. But It was interesting, especially with their motivation contrasted with Loki Familia's motivation. And insinuation that they maybe just be able to kill Loki Familia, but they don't feel like it.
Yeah, I do love how, like, as well as seeing, like, the insight of, like, the Familia as a whole, we do really get a deeper look at, like, at least the elite, or I call them, like, the A-team sometimes, or, like, the Elite Eight of Freya Familia, seeing those characters individually and how that kind of coincides with, kind of their different personalities. But I do love how, like, a lot of them, at the core of it, they don't care about anything in the world unless Freya says, hey, this is something that I'm interested in.
And there are some exceptions. Obviously, there's Mamma Mia, which we don't get too much information about her backstory. And there's Seer, she's weird in her own way.
Seer is, like, I guess the prime example of having, like, a voodoo doll or something like
weird.
That. Yeah.
She's weird, though. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, Seer is, I think, we've always talked about Seer being, the character to watch out for because she's probably extra sinister. And I think that would actually be a really cool twist that has some, like, good setup to it. But I think it almost, like, highlights just the possibility of her being maybe not even sinister, but just kind of unhinged to the point where, like, oh,
she's a little crazy, though.
Yeah, she's the crazy of the bunch.
Which, honestly, everyone in this Familia is kind of crazy in their own way, but...
Yeah, I also do love, like you said, we get a little bit of look at some other characters that are kind of attached to the benevolent mistress, like Mamma Mia, like Anya, who, is the sister of Alan, as we've known for a while. But I do like seeing more of kind of, like, sort of their past, because we get, like, chapters that talk about, like, how all of them came to be, like, enlisted in Freya Familia. So, like, we do have, like, not all of the details, but we have some, like, at least information of, like, how Anya's kind of split away from Alan, and then kind of, leading into probably what led her to the benevolent mistress, and then also with, like, the situation, or I guess the standing Mamma Familia has with the Freya Familia. But
which it would be interesting to see if Mamma Mia has a Bell-like kind of ability that makes her immune to the goddess, or something else happens.
She does have, like, a dynamic where she's almost seen as, like, an equal by Freya, and, like, it's partially because, like, Mamma Mia doesn't have any, like, what would you call it? She doesn't, like, fight for Freya, and she doesn't really interested in, like, the Familia. She's almost, like, I think the book say, like, she was, like, eloped, like, kind of roped into joining her anyway. Yeah, exactly. Like, Freya had some dirt or something on her, I guess, and she was like, all right, fine, whatever. I'll cook your food or whatever. Which I also do like Otter, like, saying, like, damn, I really feel sorry for these new recruits. They can't eat Mamma Mia's food.
Well, because all of the recruits that were with Otter are dead.
Yeah, with, I don't know, there's so much of this, like, with that, like, like those characters that we talked about in, like, the dark times, I guess it's called, when, like, the evils reign. That's all stuff that I would have liked to have had in the Liu side story, but it almost fits better here, so I don't know. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, it wasn't great because we lacked those elements in Liu, but in this it really elevated it. But that was a cool thing, too, because I think that adds to, like, the complexity of Otter, because not only does he already have kind of an interesting perspective of himself, which we can get into, but also on top of that, like, everybody around him that he's, like, kind of grown up with, except for, like, maybe a handful of people, like, like Mamma Mia and Freya, are, like, dead.
Yeah, and I don't know, so I don't know if this is skipping too far ahead, and we may, but I do want to talk about how the people that Otter look up to, and his sort of inferiority complex.
It's fine. You can jump over my first question to get into the juicy stuff. It's fine.
We can talk a little bit more about that.
That's fine. I'll get down to the Zeus and Hera stuff.
Yeah, because we do get that. That was the big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the strongest woman adventurer of all time.
Yeah. Well, we get
and the strongest, well, at least in the last, like, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And the strongest the strongest male adventurer as well.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you can say if you want, or I can jump into it.
You can say it. You can review
we do have... I love that it's not, like... Okay, there's some shocking information of, like, levels and, like, just, like, the I guess, what would you call it, the pedestal that Zeus and Hera are in comparison to everybody that's a main player in like the series now. But we also get like a really cool insight of those characters interacting with Freya and like having a deal of sorts. So I think that's something we can tie on to. But we'll get into the shocking news of like Zeus having a level 8 and Hera having a level 9, which is like, what?
It is shocking, and one of my favorite scenes in the book, it's just a little one, is I think the lady, which she had a special name, I don't remember, that was level 8, she's like, oh yeah, Otter, get a little bit stronger and you might be able to marry me,
Oh yeah.
Like, I'll come back for you later on.
It's so great because the dynamic of like Otter's personality, of him kind of beating himself up, or at least not seeing himself as having true strength. And you kind of like in the beginning kind of the book, or at least in the middle, I guess, since that's where like his chapter starts, is like, I mean, this is a cool dynamic, like at least when I'm reading, I guess I'll speak for myself. I thought like this is a really cool dynamic, and I love like kind of the approach the author went for his character. But I was also scratching my head of like, why does he think this? Because there's nobody around, at least that we know of, that's even close to him. And I think this is like the one that's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And like that's actually,
he got wrecked.
Yeah. Which, that's another thing we can touch on, but like, okay, the One-Eyed Dragon that we know is going to be like a huge player, like 20 volumes down the road probably. But like, that also makes it just such another threat that's like we're not even remotely close to. Because that dragon's got to be at least a level 10, right? Because if there's a level 9, like how many... Because I guess we can go back to the fight Otter has with his Familia earlier in the volume as maybe a reference point of how many levels, like let's say like if you're one level below Otter, how many of those levels would it take to actually take him out like efficiently and without losing anybody? So because in the book it doesn't really say, even though like all of his Familia members, let's hear it was, what was it, it was I think it's like 4, what is it? It's 2 level 6s and 4 level 5s when it gets Otter. And like they say that like if they worked together, they might have been able to corner him to where he would have had to use like his trump card. But that doesn't say like he would have like lost if yeah. So if that's the case, I mean that's like it's absurd numbers to go against for just like even a level 7. But like if the dragon's like level 10, there's got to be like, there's no way, you'd have to have like at least probably like 20 people that are like around that level. So that dragon's got to be insanely tough.
Well, yeah, and here's just some things I'll throw out here. It's hard to know if the dragon's got like top level gear, because obviously Otter and them have top level gear, but you could say, well, even because it's a dragon, it would have better gear than anything else a human could
And
produce.
We don't even know if the dragon's a Xeno or not.
That was what I was going to say. I think he's a Xeno. I think that would be a great arc of him being a Xeno. And if I could ask the author one question, I'd be like, hey, is that dragon a Xeno, though? That's all I want to know.
Is the dragon the god of the Xenos?
That would be a good twist, too. I don't know.
Yeah,
so we do get that story. It is interesting because that's the only little bit of vulnerability we see from Freya, because obviously right now, especially with what we see, there's a massacre that occurs later on. It feels like she, even among the gods, can pretty much do whatever she wants to the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Zeus and Hera being part of the world, when they were part of the world, she couldn't do that. So I wonder if their powers countered her, or maybe like there was just so much respect that she like couldn't do whatever she wanted to. So that's kind of interesting, but I wouldn't say that Freya has an inferiority complex towards those two gods. Maybe we haven't seen them interact, so it's hard to know.
There's so much like I think after reading it once, it would probably be like it would probably give more insight reading some of those scenes, or maybe even going back after like the next book or the next 2 books, depending on like what's covered in volume 15 and like maybe the next arc after that. But there is kind of like little hints that there's some sort of history that has a specific thing that causes Freya to sort of not even cave in, but just like have some incentive for her. I mean, obviously, like it says, like, you know, she went up against, what was it, Hera Familia, and got like wrecked the first time. So, but that doesn't mean like because Freya's, it's like a weird ground, because we saw like the extent of Freya's power. So even though like her Familia got wiped out, I don't know if that really says much because of her power being so OP. So, you know, like you said, it's probably got to be something that counters it too, because I feel like if she acted that way just for people that she just bought and like was technically not in her Familia, right? How much more would she react in response to somebody that like actually wiped out people that she had trained for years? So I don't know. There's got
to be something there that we don't.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see what that is, and I think maybe just judging by this, we could get you know, some more Zeus and Hera, at least sprinkled. I mean, we don't even have to see them like in the present day, but just learning more about them. Well, yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, maybe, though.
Well, this isn't probably the room for it, but little note here, if we do get some insight of Belle's past in Volume 15, maybe we'll see a little bit more of Zeus there. Who knows? But I guess keeping it in line with this one, what did you think of the other 8? Because that was something that, again, we didn't want to talk about because it was so spoiler heavy. But I really liked a lot of the other 8. I think the weakest ones, but it was still a good character, was the Gulliver brothers. I did really like kind of like their backstory and how they came to be in Freya's company. And I think because of what she did in like, you know, their first meetup, I think it kind of solidified just the reasoning why they followed her or felt indebted to her. But I didn't find them as interesting. I think it's probably just because whenever you have like a bundle of characters that sort of share a personality, or, you know, like the thing they do with twins and stuff like that, that was just one that kind of, it didn't fell flat, but I just wasn't as intrigued by it. But I think the elves, Hegni and Hedden, or Hedden, I don't remember. How do you say
Black
that?
elf, white elf, I don't know.
Oh, wow, way to be racist. All right, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they were done really well. I do, again, the backstories for all of them are really great, but Alan, I think Alan and Otter is like the hardest like line to separate, because even though a lot of the new characters, particularly with the elves, I guess you could say, are really cool to see, there was just so much added to, like, I guess maybe because we've had like the prior knowledge of some of the of like Otter and Alan, but like those scenes that kind of give insight to them, I think really, I guess, just even more so expanded upon like my interest for them, seeing them pop up in the main series.
Yeah, I certainly increased, especially Otter being, obviously he's the main character and the leader of Freya Familia. I mean, he's not the main character in this story, but I'm saying in the Freya Familia, he's definitely the leader. Mm-hmm. So it was great seeing him. I think the only other thing that, like, I like the other characters. I think I'm sure the side story going to have more volumes covering a wide variety of topics, because, you know, with the last side story, it kind of jumped around a lot.
Right, yeah.
So I'm sure it'll cover more, and I'm excited. I'm definitely not going to be bored with those characters like I kind of am with Ophelia and Eyes and Finn and whatever the weird Amazon twins who I don't care or know how are they different.
Tione or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So like those characters are boring. These characters are not boring, but I don't think we really talked. We've talked a little bit about Seer, but we didn't really talk about how big of a reveal is, which is her goal is
to become Freya. Which how are you going to do that, you think?
Yeah, Freya was even confused, but they came to a deal. So maybe she gets to become a god if she takes Belle first. I don't know.
I do love, that's like a weird, because like the Danmachi universe is like so ripe with possibility, because there's so many things that aren't necessarily explained, or at least we don't know the full extent of like how powers work and stuff like that. So it's very well possible. I kind of take it, at least right now, as like not in the literal sense, but it would be intriguing to see if there is some sort of thing that they can do that maybe makes it more than what it appears to be. Like, for instance, I feel like there's a prime example of like what is it, book 7, when we have Harihime, and it's like, you know, they're going to use her soul to like increase the power of other people. So I don't know, maybe there's something like that where like Freya can like give her some sort of power, something like that. I don't know. But in probably like the more believable way, I would say, and I actually did kind of like it, was I think it kind of gave insight to the Liu side story when Seer comes in and is just demolishing everybody at gambling, because we did get that. I don't know why. There's like a connective tissue of gambling in both the side series right now. I'm not against it. It's a cool thing to have.
But in between Bell and Seer, the world may never know.
Yeah. Also, there's a really fun speculation topic I have that's centered around gambling and Bell possibility. But needless to say, but I do like, that kind of, maybe we see like sort of the, like one of, what would you call it? Like one of the results of her trying to be Freya is her getting on the same level as her gambling skills. I don't know. It's just a small little thing there, but I feel like there was something of importance that the author did as like a hint.
So let's finish this up. This is probably multiple parts because there's a lot to talk about. So don't worry about this. This is part one. If you have any more speculation, comments about this series, let us know. And we will continue to make more Danmachi, more on this side story. And we really enjoy Danmachi, so we're excited for the future.
Very true. We'll see you guys later.
Later, Addicts.